At Nate's apartment, Audra tries to convince Amy that Damien will eventually come around and agree to see her. She just has to give it time. Amy is worried that telling him about her involvement may have scared him off. She recaps how he spiraled after losing his father, an experience that seemed to shake him beyond repair. This was extreme, she confesses. She can understand a temporary setback, but this was different. It was like he'd never recover. Nate wonders if time has dulled the pain, but Amy isn't so sure. She fears she's already lost him again, and isn't sure she can handle it. Audra reassures her by insisting Damien must have been affected on some level, knowing that she was looking for him. Nate is certain Damien just needs time to cool down. Amy, through tears, whispers, "Okay." Audra tells her that the feelings they shared will still be there. Nate, meanwhile, is intrigued by Damien's past and asks Amy for a story about him growing up. Amy smiles through her pain and recounts a memory of Damien falling in love with a stray cat, convincing her to let him keep it, and then panicking as they tried to keep it a secret from her husband, until the cat made a surprise appearance during a movie night. Tearing up, Amy can't bear the thought that this could be the end of her relationship with her son. "We were so close," she says. "I love him so much." Audra assures her that Damien loves her too, and pulls Amy into a hug. Nate promises to do everything in his power to make a reunion happen. Amy, moved, embraces him tightly. In the park, Holden tells Damien they can't keep up the charade much longer. If he goes to meet Nate and Amy happens to show up, his cover will be completely blown. Damien, however, smiles slyly. "Not necessarily," he says. Holden looks skeptical. "If your mother takes one look at you, it's over." Damien assures him that he'll have to make sure that doesn't happen. Nate is after something, and Damien wants to know what. Holden agrees to dig deeper. "I bet you can even get Nate to tell you everything," Damien prompts. Holden asks if he really thinks Nate is scamming him. Damien is certain there's more to this than just trying to reunite him with his mother. He needs to understand how Nate is connected to his past and what his true intentions are. Holden informs Damien that they're still waiting on the background check on Nate. Damien questions whether his mother has connections in Genoa City. Holden suggests she might be a friend of Nate's mother. Damien admits it's possible. Just then, Holden's phone buzzes with the results of the background check on Nate Hastings. He reads aloud that Nate was once a surgeon before an accident forced him into the corporate world. His mother, Olivia Hastings, is a doctor. Damien wonders if Nate's mother knew his father. Holden continues reading and reveals that Nate's father was Nathan Hastings, who died when Nate was young. Damien frowns. This whole thing is still a mystery. At Billy's place, Sally is working when Billy arrives with food. She teases him about taking so long, but Billy is excited. While he was waiting, he put her pep talk to good use. He's keen on his media venture and wants to bring Phyllis and Daniel on board. Sally questions whether that's a good idea. Billy insists that Phyllis is more business-savvy than people give her credit for, and she had his back when no one else did. Sally reminds him that she was there for him too. Billy immediately apologizes, acknowledging that Sally's support meant the world to him. However, as far as business was concerned, Phyllis was his sole ally. Sally appreciates Billy's sentiment and understands his ambitions. But she has two pieces of advice. First, he doesn't need to overdo it when ordering food for her. Billy nods. Noted. Next, Sally warns him to be cautious when involving Phyllis in his business. She's unpredictable and volatile. Billy argues that people say the same about him. Sally points out that two powder kegs working together could be explosive. Billy counters that they could also spark something great. He believes both he and Phyllis have been underestimated, and this venture could be their chance to prove everyone wrong. Sally ultimately asks him to be careful. Billy assures her that it will all work out. At Crimson Lights, Sharon greets Phyllis, who is surprised to see her back at work so soon. Phyllis acknowledges that she spoke to Daniel but warns that these latest developments don't get her off the hook. Sharon hopes Daniel told her that Ian Ward confessed to killing Heather. "That clears me," she says. Phyllis, unimpressed, insists that Chance and Michael likely made the charges go away. Sharon denies this. Phyllis scoffs at Sharon's sob story, but Sharon reminds her that she was drugged with PCP, manipulated by Cameron Kirsten. I had to fight like hell to resist those voices, Sharon confesses. Phyllis wonders if she should be grateful that Sharon resisted the urge to kill her. Sharon insists she's simply trying to express her profound apologies. She knows she set Daniel up, even if she didn't realize what she was doing. She hopes one day they can all move forward. Phyllis, however, will never forgive her. She tells Sharon she promised her children she'd stop obsessing over making her pay, and she intends to keep that promise. Sharon thanks her for letting it go, but Phyllis clarifies that she'll never forgive her. As Phyllis continues berating her, Nick enters. "What's going on?" he asks. Phyllis says she and Sharon are just clearing the air. She then turns her attention to Nick and asks about Victor. Nick says his father is already home from the hospital. Phyllis then complains about Ian Ward's release, arguing that Heather's death wouldn't have happened if not for Sharon. Nick reminds her that Summer said she was moving on. Phyllis insists she has moved on, but she just wanted to clarify things with Sharon. With that, she leaves. Nick assures Sharon that Daniel will come around. Sharon worries about the long-term psychological effects of the ordeal and knows she has to focus on her own recovery. Back at Nate's place, he reminds Amy that they knew this wouldn't be easy. Damien has been blindsided by the news. She was looking for him. He just needs time. Amy is pessimistic, fearing she's already lost him. Audra and Nate encourage her to stay hopeful. Meanwhile, in the park, Holden uncovers a key detail. Amy worked for Nate's father before Damien was born. That has to be the connection, Damien realizes. The mystery deepens. Damien investigates Nate's background while Sharon tests the waters with Phyllis. Audra attempts to persuade Amy that Damien would change his mind and agree to see her at Nate's place. She will simply need to wait. Amy is concerned that she could have scared him away by disclosing her participation. After losing his father, she summarizes, he went into a downward spiral. This was very drastic. A brief setback is understandable to her, but this seemed like he would never get well. Nate questions whether the agony has lessened with time. Amy only fears that her concerns may materialize. She cannot bear to lose him once more. Knowing that she was searching for Damien, Audra reassures her by stating that he must have been impacted in some way. Amy, Audra, YNR. Nate is certain that Damien simply needs some time to calm down. All right, sobs Amy. Audra assures her that their shared emotions will last. Nate would be interested in learning more about his brother's childhood. Amy tells the tale of Damien winning her over to his way of thinking after he fell in love with a stray cat. She chuckles at their anxiety in trying to hide the cat from her husband, until it unexpectedly showed up on a movie night. Amy is crying because she loves her son so much and can't take the thought that their time together is coming to an end. Audra is certain that he too loves her. She hugs Amy tightly. According to Nate, he will use every effort to ensure that it occurs. Amy gives him a hug. Holden warns Damien in the park that they can't continue this act for very long. His cover will be blown if he goes to meet Nate and Amy shows up. Not necessarily, says Damien with a cunning smile. What do you mean, says Holden. It's over if his mother looks at him once. Damien informs him that he must ensure that does not occur. Nate wants to know what it is that he is pursuing. Holden's going to try his hardest. Damien believes in him wholeheartedly. I'm willing to wager that you can even persuade Nate to tell you the truth about everything. Do you think he's trying to con you? Asks Holden. Damien is certain there must be more involved than only attempting to get him back together with his mother. He must understand his relationship with his mother and his desires. Holden informs Damien that they have yet to get the results of Nate's background investigation. Damien queries his mother's Genoa City connections. Holden speculates that she might be Nate's mother's acquaintance. Damien thinks it's feasible. Holden receives the updated information about Nate Hastings on his phone at that very moment. He learns that before an accident forced Nate into the corporate world, he worked as a physician. His mom works as a physician. Damien queries whether Nate's mother was acquainted with his father. Holden learns that Nathan Hastings was his father, but he passed away when he was a small child. This whole thing is still a mystery, says Damien with a grimace. Sally is working at Billy's apartment when he arrives with dinner. What took you so long, she says. He claims that by using her motivational speech, he made good use of his waiting time. He is eager to get Daniel and Phyllis to join him in the media endeavor. Is he certain that's a good idea? Sally wonders. Billy has a different perspective on Phyllis than the majority of the town. She already has fantastic ideas for this project and is more business savvy than most people realize. When no one else had his back, she did. Sally appears to recall supporting him. Billy is sorry. Without her assistance, he could not have survived that ordeal. However, Phyllis was the only person in the company who supported him. What Sally did for him is something he will always remember. Sally appreciated how much he cared and saw how hard he was working. She is Billy's rock and he loves having her in his life. They share a kiss. Sally Billy YNR. Sally informs Billy she has 2 pieces of advice for him after they finish their meal. He doesn't have to go overboard the next time he places an order for her. Billy gives a nod. Next. Additionally, Sally continues to believe that he ought to exercise restraint when interacting with Phyllis. She is explosive and erratic. Billy believes that some individuals might feel the same way about him. According to Sally, combining 2 powder kegs could result in an explosion. Billy contends that they may inspire one another to achieve greatness. Both of them have been denigrated and the target of unfavorable preconceptions. I understand her perspective. Sally queries whether that is sufficient to risk starting his own business. Billy is aware of Phyllis's contributions. This is a means for her and Daniel to get back on track after everything they've been through. Both of them will be useful. Sally requests that he pledge to exercise caution. Billy tells her that everything will be fine. Sharon welcomes Phyllis at Crimson Lights, who is surprised to see her return to work so quickly. Although she admits that she spoke with Daniel, she cautions that these recent events will not absolve her of responsibility for their conversation. Sharon hopes he informed her that Ian Ward admitted to Heather's murder. All of the allegations have been withdrawn, and she is no longer held accountable for that. Phyllis believes Chance and Michael dated and forced them to leave. That's not how the legal system operates, Sharon informs her. Sharon's sob tale is summarized by Phyllis. Sharon acknowledges that she knows she didn't run her off the road that night and says she has a few of her own. Phyllis believes Sharon wanted her dead, but she knows it was Jordan. Given her fuzzy state, Sharon says it might have been her. I wasn't myself at all. PCP was being added to my medications. Cameron Kirsten, that monster, insisted on giving her instructions. Phyllis queries whether he was advising her to murder her. According to Sharon, he told her that she needed to take action. I had to put up a fierce fight to keep you alive and silence those voices. She would not allow them to prevail. You're sitting here now, hating me more than ever because of that. Phyllis questions whether she ought to give Sharon credit for restraining herself from killing her. Sharon is attempting to convey how deeply sorry she is for everything that transpired. She acknowledges that she set Daniel up. Her conduct were not justified just because she was unaware that she was using drugs. She hopes they will all be able to forgive her in the future. She will never, ever be forgiven by Phyllis. She informs Sharon that she made a vow to her children that she would no longer be consumed by her intense desire to hold her accountable for her actions. She will do that. She agreed to let this go, and Sharon is grateful. She will never be forgiven by Phyllis. Sharon knows. If she did, Phyllis wouldn't be sitting there complaining, but she's not sure. Are you aware that you set up my son? Planting evidence was not nearly as bad as what you did. The fact that my kid had to witness these gory towels drenched in Heather's blood was terrible enough, but you deceived the authorities. Sharon can't recall. According to Phyllis, she informed the police that Heather had expressed fear of Daniel. She only needed to hide her illegal activities. She didn't give a damn about what he was going through. Sharon wishes she could go back and change everything. Phyllis claims she is unable to, and she is not even being held accountable for her offenses. That Nick enters, Phyllis informs Sharon that although she believes her son has been receptive, the shock will subside and Daniel will have the same emotions that she does at the moment. What's going on? Asks Nick. Phyllis claims that she is clearing the air with Sharon. She inquires about his father. According to Nick, he has already returned home from the hospital. Phyllis is upset that Ian Ward was freed. Nick summarizes that his only reason for coming back was to attack Sharon and Mariah. According to Phyllis, this indicates that Heather was collateral damage and that she would still be alive today if it weren't for Sharon. According to Nick, Summer assured him that she had gone past this. Phyllis has moved on. She was merely giving Sharon clarification. She leaves after saying that. Nick is told by Sharon that she cannot hold Phyllis responsible for being a protective parent. She remains the same. She wouldn't be like Phyllis, in Nick's opinion. She was drugged with PCP, they recall. He believes Daniel will change his mind. If that occurs, Sharon believes Phyllis might do the same. She fears that the experience has had a far greater psychological impact than she has had time to consider. She needs to concentrate on getting better. Nate reminds Amy that they were aware that there would be challenges at his house. Damien, who was caught off guard by the news that she had located him, is being asked a lot of questions. He is certain that he will reconsider. Although Amy detests her constant pessimism, she is pressed for time. Amy and Audra don't want to consider that, at least not at this moment. According to Amy, they cannot deny the facts. Damien disconnected from her and built a life without her. Why would he reconsider? They only need to maintain their composure. Nate is convinced. He believes Damien will examine his background. He will have no trouble learning that Amy was his father's employee. Amy is unsure of the significance of that. He was unable to discover that she and Nathan were dating. According to Nate, it will pique his interest. He suspects that they haven't spotted him yet. Amy, Audra, YNR Nate. Holden learns in the park that Amy was employed by Nate's father before to his birth. Damien was aware that she had been an assistant at an office before. That must be the link to Nate, isn't it? Holden gives a nod. For it not to be, it is too coincidence. Sally's fortune cookie at Billy's house foretells that she will succeed greatly in a new endeavor. Billy believes that with her skill and sense of flair, she can't help it. I was just reminded of the silly game where you put in bed on the end of the fortune, Sally laughs. Bill also sees a lot of success in that field. Sally frowns when she hears Billy allow Phyllis in when the doorbell rings. If she's interrupting, she asks. Phyllis, Billy, YNR. Phyllis is asked by Billy how he obtained his new address. She claims that he employed her because of her resourcefulness. She tells Billy that she and Daniel are still considering his offer as she sits down and begins helping themselves to the takeaway. He will have to make a strong case to them. Billy leads Sally to the door after she makes the decision to leave. Goodbye, shouts Phyllis as she devours broccoli. When Phyllis is by herself, she tells Billy that she adores his apartment. It has a strong Billy Abbott feel to it. Sally did everything in there, he claims. Phyllis was unaware of how far their friendship had come. Delimitations, Billy reminds her. Naturally, she introduces herself as Firewall Phyllis. Sally, Phyllis, Billy, YNR. Sharon assures Nick at Crimson Lights that she is committed to overcoming this. He tells her that she can rely on him or any family member. Sharon can never express how grateful she is to him. They give each other hugs.